Hello and welcome back to the News Project Live on GNAT-TV's Facebook page. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director at GNAT-TV's News Project, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today on Friday, October 15th. Lots of news to get to today, so let's get right to it. I guess the big story of the week, at least down here in the Manchester area, was that plans for a proposed 67,000 square foot field house were announced today, earlier this week on Tuesday the 13th. Uh, they would be located at the Dana Thompson Memorial Rec Park in Manchester. And as proposed, the field house would include an indoor track, three multi-purpose courts, pickleball courts, a fitness area, a climbing tower, and it would be located up at the sort of, I guess you could say, the northern end of the rec park, sort of in between the field house, in between the park house and the roadway there that runs into the rec park there at the upper end. Uh, it's near a storage barn that's been used for many years by community clubs to hold supplies and equipment, but that will be removed and presumably there would be a replacement for that found. Projected cost is about 13.25 million, $13,250,000, and the Drunzik Family Right Track Foundation has pledged $3 million towards that. And then the rest would be coming from voters and other donations and fundraising. The idea is for the field house to be available to residents from right around all over the North Shire, not just in Manchester, but uh, towns such as Arlington, Danby, Dorset, Landgrove, Londonderry, Mount Tabor, Peru, Sunderland, Weston, and Winhall. All residents of those towns will be hearing from advocates of this proposal, I guess, between now and town meeting to see if they would like to get on board with it. If they do vote in favor of joining into the partnership, uh, they would be paying money into it to help build it. And then the residents of the town would get a special resident membership fee opportunity. You could become an annual member for $125 if you're one of the residents in one of the communities involved in it, or it would be, I believe, $370 if you're for a non-resident. So we have a segment that's been posted to the GNAT TV website, gnat-tv.org. It's about a 30-minute long synopsis of the press conference. We decided to go down that route to give greater detail about the proposal and give more information. So you can watch that there and learn more about it. It'll also be available on our TV channels as well. Interesting idea, and we'll certainly be following that to see where it goes from here. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people very excited about it, and others who will want to know more about what the uh, what the cost will wind up being. There's also going to be a launch party at the Park House at the Rec Park on Saturday, October 23rd from 1 to 3 p.m. So if this sounds like something you're interested in learning more about, that'll be an opportunity to do that. There'll be, I believe, hot dogs and refreshments served at the party, as well as more information available about the proposal. So again, that's Saturday, October 23rd from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Park House at the Manchester Rec Park. So moving on from there was also a housing summit that was held in Arlington Wednesday, October 13th at the Arlington Common. That's the group of buildings near the intersection of Route 313 and 7A. It used to be the home of the Margaret Mary's Catholic Church. It is being converted into a community center. The three buildings will be, I think, a really interesting and excellent addition to the Arlington community. But on Wednesday, it was the site of the housing summit that was organized and hosted by State Representatives Seth Bongartz and Kathleen James, and focus was on the general housing crunch that's underway in Vermont, particularly for affordable and workforce housing. Presentations were made by the state's housing commissioner, Josh Hanford, and also Stephanie Lane of Shires Housing. Several other representatives from the Department of Housing and Conservation and the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, Bennington County Regional Commission were on hand to offer some observations and insights into how to solve the housing crunch. The private marketplace is struggling to find a good set of incentives to build housing that would meet that need. And this conference aimed to kind of address some of those solutions as well as look at a few case studies of other areas where that housing crunch was already in existence. I mean, after all, this is hardly a new question or a new problem. It was certainly a major discussion point before the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that certainly highlighted the whole situation even more. So the main thing, I guess, is that GNAT-TV covered the entire event. We recorded the entire 6 hour long conference, and you'll be able to watch the various components of that on our stations or on our website. It'll be posted, I think, sometime early next week. So if you want to make the real deep dive into issues surrounding housing, you will have an opportunity to do that. We are also in the process of putting together a little shorter segment about that. Have some interviews with some of the folks who were speaking at the event and who were involved in the whole housing shortage situation. So again, very interesting to learn more about that. Turning to more statewide news, I guess the big announcement of this week for a lot of folks is that the Canadian border is finally going to be reopened to allow Canadian visitors to come to the United States. That won't happen until sometime in November, but the federal government announced on Tuesday that the U.S. will allow foreign nationals who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 to cross land borders across the northern boundary with Canada. And obviously for Vermont and Vermont businesses, that's a very big deal. More so perhaps in the northern half of the state, but down here in the southern end of the state, Canadian visitors and Canadian travelers and Canadian business is, well, has been anyway, a really important part of the activity down here, particularly in foliage season too. So we're going to miss that opportunity. I suppose the ski areas will be able to benefit though from that. So good news on all fronts. The U.S. land borders have been closed to non-essential travel since March of 2020. And like I said earlier, Canada has allowed fully vaccinated Americans to cross the border since August 19th, August 9th, excuse me. But up until now, the U.S. hasn't been able to reciprocate that. So again, a big impact for local businesses here in southern Vermont, and be great to welcome our Canadian friends back into the neighborhood. Also, interesting announcement, very important and very welcome one, came earlier this week. Vermont is going to see historic levels of financial assistance to help cover heating bills and pay for energy efficiency upgrades for homes this winter, thanks to a funding boost from Congress. The state is going to receive $49 million from the federal government's Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, better known as LIHEAP. That's more than double what the state typically gets each year. So, very welcome news, particularly since we're hearing indications that heating costs could well be higher this year than last. I suppose that's a reflection of supply chain issues and just supply problems in general. But heating oil, it's been said, is going to be more expensive this year than it has been in the past. Also coupled with a forecast of another colder than average winter this year. So welcome news from Washington that there will be more money available to help out Vermonters who qualify for this assistance to get through the winter more comfortably. Governor Scott and the state's congressional delegation and industry leaders announced this at a Thursday press conference and noted that the need had never been greater for energy assistance, given the continuity of the coronavirus pandemic, and again those heating costs, which are expected to be higher than normal. Also, more welcome news comes on the housing front. The motel housing pause for folks who are homeless has been extended. Governor Scott plans to extend the so-called pause that was announced earlier. That's keeping about 700 Vermonters. Excuse me, I think it may be closer to 900 Vermonters or households who are still living in motels around the state. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the state has used federal funding to house Vermonters experiencing homelessness in vacant motel rooms. As vaccinations have ramped up and cases have plummeted, about 700 people were taken off of this program on the 1st of July. The state allowed those with children or qualifying disabilities or those fleeing dangerous situations to remain for at least another 84 days. And that pause is going to be coming up, that came up in mid-September. That was extended for another 30 days at that point, so there's going to be another 30-day pause to allow participants to stay in place for another month at least. So good news there on that front as well. As far as COVID goes, latest numbers coming out of the state's health department are 236 new cases reported today, 45 folks in the hospital, 12 of them in an ICU. The death total now is up to 343 Vermonters we've lost since March of 2020. Locally, here in Bennington County, 28 of those 236 new cases come from Bennington County. We've seen 187 over the past 2 weeks. In neighboring Windham County, 11 new cases and 179 over the past 2 weeks. In Rutland County, 21 new cases, 361 over the past 2 weeks. That number today, 236, is up sharply from yesterday's announced number of 151, which had been a kind of a drop from what we've been seeing in the past week or so. The previous day, it would have been on Wednesday, the number was 328. We're still going through a very high period of COVID cases. Overall, the state's 7-day average has been about 225, and that's one of the highest averages over a week that's been reported since the start of the pandemic. So everyone's watching to see if that number is going to be getting to drop. Nationally, numbers are starting to fall. And of course, here in Vermont, we've been doing pretty well, better than the national average, but the last couple of weeks have definitely seen a sharp uptick in some of the case counts. So hopefully, despite that high number we're looking at today, maybe that will begin to subside. So that's where we'll leave it for today. Glad to have had you with us. We'll be back next Friday as well. And meanwhile, stay well, stay safe. Look forward to seeing you again next week, and take care.